Hope you can see this okay. My name's Dale. I'm from Kimberley, British Columbia. I bought this 1988 Volkswagen Westfalia in June. Went on a trip out to the Gulf Islands and the Lower Mainland and the Okanagan. Came home, parked it in the driveway. 2 days later, no start. I just thought I'd make this video to help somebody else who maybe has the same problem, or to give them some ideas. I don't know much about these things. I did used to have a 77. I was pretty fluent in air-cooled. These things are a lot more complicated. Mechanics don't seem to know how to work on them. There's a ton of stuff on the internet. There's a lot of blogs, but you have to be careful what you pick, because it's not all true just because it's on the internet. I don't have any of the manuals, but I've gotten so much stuff on the Digifont system, etc. off the internet. It's unbelievable, even all the information about maintenance on the fridge and that. So initially, if you charge the battery up, the van would start for a day. Next day you'd come out in the morning and it would not start. Even if you disconnected the battery after you charged it, it would start it that day. The next day, even with it disconnected, when you hooked it back up again, it would not start. So I had replaced the battery, thinking it was a bad cell was shorting it out. I took it to a mechanical shop. They took a coil off the bench and jury-rigged it in to replace the one in the van, and it started. They assumed it was the coil. They replaced the coil with a new one, and they also replaced one of the relays in the back on the left side of the engine on the wall. They said it seemed to be running hot. We found out that there was no spark. The engine turned over nice. There just was no spark. So we started trying to figure out what that could be. Some of the things that I did not related to the issue that there was no spark was, some of the things that I did was I disconnected the oxygen sensor on the exhaust, and I plugged the two wires in the harness together. Didn't make any difference. I replaced the temp 2 sensor, which is just ahead of the thermostat. I did replace the other relay in the box in the back. That is the relay that does the fuel injection, I think the pump. It also talks to the computer, the ECU, and it also does the cooling fan in the front of the van. It was very hard to get when I tried originally. Now it seems like you can get them no problem. I did get a cheap ignition switch, and so I replaced it. Now I didn't have to actually take everything apart other than I took the cover off. I simply unplugged the old ignition switch, plugged the new one in, put a screwdriver in it, and turned it. So it's not the tumblers, just the switch itself. And it still did not start. We thought maybe it was the Hall sensor. And it didn't look very good. It looked very brittle. There was a little bit of oil in the distributor. And I had my wife turning the engine over, and I tapped lightly on the side of the distributor, and the rotor in there, the rotor that turns around the Hall sender, promptly blended the Hall sender. It obviously was brittle and busted loose and was not in the proper location. Slight tapping on the distributor, it just carbureted it. I did end up replacing the entire distributor with a Bosch, rebuilt in Germany. It was 2 1/4 from Van Cafe. Needless to say, right off the bat, all of the grounds were checked. They were all good on the starter, in the engine compartment. They were all good. It's simply, there simply was no spark. Turned over great, would not start. I messed with a number of other things not related to the issue, but the throttle position switch was not set properly, and when the throttle was let right off, it didn't click, and when you were almost full throttle, it didn't click. I set that again. Right now I have the idle control module out of it, and I've sent it to the organic mechanic outside of Nelson, and he's having someone fix it. It doesn't work. It's winter, and if you go to start the van, it will start and it'll immediately stall if you don't give it a slight little bit of gas. So from everything that I've read, it tells me that the problem is the idle control module. The idle valve does not hum or buzz or vibrate when the key is turned on, and that's one of the things that makes me think it's the idle control module from everything that I've read. I'm just going to grab the camera and go around the van and I'll show you where some of this stuff hides. It's kind of peculiar to this vehicle, and I'm just hoping it's helpful. I remember when I was trying to find stuff, I was like, it's where? So, just going to do a walk around. It's winter. There's Bootleg Mountain outside of Kimberley, BC. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's just about the middle of February. And it's probably pretty close to zero. Some guys have been coming out and having fires here, and I'm thinking about doing that later tonight. So I'll just do a quick walk around. 1988, it's pastel white. Pretty decent condition. It's got 260-some thousand K on it. That rug is to make the engine heat up a little bit more. Cooling system so we can throw a bit better heat. Not sure if it works or not. I did replace that flap. It was missing. It protects the tank. Got a little bit of surface rust going on there. I'm pretty confident I can fix that. Tiny bit of surface rust right there. Again, I'm pretty confident I can fix that. Propane tank is underneath there. And the water reservoir entrance is right there, and power down there, and city water up there. I've replaced the rear tires with Hankooks. I've replaced the rear shocks. It does have the trailer hitch that's hooked up where the tow hooks would go. Can't haul a lot with it, but the motor is kind of the limiting factor anyway, and I do plug a bicycle rack into there, and I'm probably going to hook a small trailer up that I'm modifying, and I might take the odd trip with my old Beamer on the back so that I can set up and still be able to ride. So hopefully you can see this. This box here, again, this is on the left inside of the engine compartment. It has in the inside of it, it has two relays. The one on this side is the relay that I had a hard time getting. It controls the fuel pump, the cooling fan, and talks to the computer, the whatever you want to call that. This is the coil that's been replaced. Hiding back here, this blue thing down here by the thermostat housing, that is the temp 2 sensor right there. It's a slush box van. Here's the dipstick for the automatic transmission. Now this on the very top dead center of the engine is what I referred to as the, what is it called? Idle control valve. This is the valve. This is the wiring harness that runs to it. This should buzz or vibrate or hum when the key is turned on without starting the engine. It does not. The throttle position sensor is down in there. Now there's the air box, and there's the air intake into the engine. That is the idle adjustment right there. And way down in there is the throttle position switch. There is a lock bolt there that you loosen with a torque wrench. I say torque, I mean Allen key. And then you turn the other one and you push the van just off of idle, and it should go click. And when you go just before full throttle, it should go click again. And if not, you adjust that and then tighten up the lock bolt and then try it again. Now the oxygen sensor that I said I unplugged and put the two wires together inside the van, the wiring runs down from here on the left side, and the oxygen sensor is screwed into the exhaust system. So if you're looking from outside, underneath there, you'll see it there. You'll see it's got two wires hooked up to it. Now the unit that I've got out right now I've sent away to be fixed, the idle control module, hides behind the right tail light. You really do take the screws out, pull the tail light out, and inside of there you'll see, I think, 5 wires in a wiring harness plugging into a thing very roughly the size of a cigarette package. On this van it was just sap strapped to the intake, the air tubing, and it was sitting facing up so that the wires came in from the bottom, and the reason for that is so that no moisture, if it's flipped the other way, moisture could get down inside of it and wreck it. Something's wrecked it anyway. Maybe it's just old age, maybe it's a crack in the solder, I'm not really too sure. So there is the distributor that is rebuilt by Bosch in Germany. It looks like brand new, and it's probably updated from the original one that had an external cup, a metal shield around it that was supposed to stop arcing. This does not have it, but I believe this is a different material. Again, that distributor looks like brand new. I simply undid the adjustment bolt here that allows it to be turned for timing. I took off the 2 bolts that hold the thing in place. Of course, I had the wires off. Popped it out of the engine. When this one got here, I installed it. I had taken a ton of pictures on my cell phone of the exact position of this unit, exactly how it sat in here when I got of the old one. When I got the new one, I simply looked at all those pictures and set it up so that this adjustment, this clamp, this holding bracket, was I set exactly the same on this one. When I plugged it back into the van, the end of the distributor matched perfectly the holes, so that tells me that I had it almost exactly right, or exactly right. I sent the old one back to Van Cafe, and they'll have it rebuilt for the next guy. Now the other thing that I ended up doing, before I forget, because this is the crux of the whole matter here, I'm just out here to do a bit of snowshoeing. It's so nice out. The other thing that I did that the problem was, now this is under the bench seat. This is on the driver's side. And you can see this metal box right here. This is where the computer is. It's right inside of this thing. You simply undo the screws on the top. I got a mirror and I looked underneath. There was one or two, I forget, screws that I simply loosened. When I did that, you were able to, with these screws out, shift it and pull it and move it. Now, the wiring harness for the computer comes in from the back. Go on the internet and have a look at it. It's a peculiar thing. There's only one way to plug it in or to unplug it. When you undo this unit, there's very little room to move it around. You pretty much have to know what it looks like where the wiring harness plugs in. Hold it with one hand, reach behind with the other hand, unplug it, and poof, it's out of there. It only takes a couple of minutes. So I did get a rebuilt one from Van Cafe they're in San Diego. I got a rebuilt one for $2.25 after the core charge. So it cost me $2.25, and I plugged it in. Boom, she started. This whole thing took about 2.5 months. I was trying this and trying that. I was on the internet. I went through so much information. It was absolutely, my brain was flooded with information. My brother's a journeyman mechanic who worked on Volkswagens a long time ago, and he lives in Saskatchewan. I had him on the phone a few times giving me ideas of what to test and where to go. It does seem logical that you would test all these parts, and you would probably start with the cheapest and work your way up. And it has some basis in fact, although quite honestly you really do end up starting with the cheapest, replace it, move on to the next one, replace that. And that's what I did. I started with the cheapest. The last thing that I replaced was the computer from Van Cafe. I think the core charge was maybe $150 charged on top of the $2.25 for the computer. So I paid the full amount. When I switched the computers over, I sent my old one back once they got it and checked it out. They gave me my refund, my core charge, and they'll rebuild that, and that'll go to somebody else. Those parts are not available anymore. The idle control module is not available new. That's the one I have being fixed right now. The computer is not available new. $2.25 was the absolute cheapest computer that I found out there. The most expensive one was $500. Actually, there was one that was $700. So anyway, it's a beautiful day, and I'm going to go snowshoeing, and I really hope that this helps somebody. It was a long, drawn-out, frustrating process for me. I learned a hell of a lot, and I hope that this helps somebody. There are very few mechanics out there that know how to work on the Digifont fuel injection system, electrical system on this van. They're very peculiar to this van. Stuff hides in odd places. The Volkswagen dealerships, from what I know, their mechanics know nothing about these things. They're not interested in working on them. You really have to stick with the companies that deal with Vanagons. They have got a lot of information for you on the internet, and they've got the parts and they've got the know-how. There's Go Westy, there's Van Cafe, there's There's Bus Boys, not familiar with them. Bus Depot, not real familiar with them. And there are a couple of other ones. They're all in California, except for one that I just found. This one is out of Ontario. I forget the fellow's name. It's an Italian name. I believe he moved from New York to Ontario. If you're checking out Vanagon parts, you'll come across his name. It's an Italian name, Frank Capacelli or something like that, and Friends or N Company. They've got an interesting setup where the prices are all in a row. You just scroll down, you can see everything they've got, and the prices are right there. It's really, really easy to look at. Never use their services, but I do intend to. Next thing I've got to do is replace the tranny pan gasket and the gearbox between the tranny and the engine. The tranny pan gasket is here. It's called and anyway, there's another pan right behind it. Both of those appear to be leaking. I had to add a little bit of automatic transmission fluid to it this morning before I came out here. Anyway, I hope this helps. Take care. All the best to you, and let's keep these old vans running. We all love them. And we'll keep them running for the next guy. Take care.